Many people have stories about seeing aliens. Here are two. Judy Varnes works for a group called the Mutual UFO Network. The purpose of this group is to research UFO sightings. Varnes thinks a place called Area 51 in Nevada in the U.S. may be the best place on Earth to see UFOs. One day, she took some photos in the area and saw something she thinks is a UFO. We saw this little disc-shaped thing in our photos. It's kind of exciting, she says. Pat Travis lives near Area 51. One night, she saw a strange light in the sky. The light's movements were very unusual. Travis saw the lights move sideways and up and down. She saw them make many strange moves. Travis thinks it was a UFO. Secrets of Area 51. Some people think Area 51 is where the U.S. Air Force keeps secrets, like UFOs that came to Earth and the aliens inside them. But really, Area 51 is a place the U.S. Air Force uses to test new technology, such as new kinds of aircraft. James McGahey is a pilot who flew airplanes at Area 51. There is absolutely no UFO activity at Area 51, he says. No flying saucers, no live aliens, no dead aliens. So what did Varnes and Travis see? Bill Fox worked at Area 51 too. He thinks he knows the answer. We did build some strange-looking airplanes, he says. I could see why some people would think they were UFOs. So, are UFOs real? You'll have to decide for yourself. But if you do visit Nevada, keep your eyes on the skies.
Most people have heard the story of the lost island of Atlantis. But is any part of the story true? Over 2,000 years ago, the Greek writer Plato wrote about Atlantis, an island in the Atlantic Ocean. The island's people were very rich. They built a big city with many great buildings. At the center of the island, they built a beautiful golden temple. But the people became greedy. They had many things, but they still wanted more. So the gods became angry, and the island was struck by earthquakes and very large waves. Finally, the whole island sank into the sea. Many explorers have looked for Atlantis. In 2004, explorer Robert Sarmast reported finding the remains of a city under the sea near Cyprus. However, Sarmast and other scientists later found out the structures he found under the sea were natural, not man-made. Many people think Atlantis is simply a story. The purpose of the story is to teach people not to be greedy. Richard Ellis wrote a book about Atlantis in 1999. He says there is not a piece of solid evidence for a real Atlantis. So was the island real or not? We only know one thing. The mystery of Atlantis will be with us for a long time.
Today, pizza is one of the world's favorite foods. All over the world, people make different pizzas with different ingredients. But where does pizza come from? And who made the first one? The first pizza. People have been making pizza for a very long time. In the Stone Age, some people mixed flour with water to make dough. Then they cooked it on hot rocks. Over time, people started using the cooked dough as a plate, covering it with various other foods, herbs, and spices. They had made the world's first pizza, a new ingredient. Then, in the early 1500s, European explorers brought the first tomatoes back from the Americas. Tomatoes are a basic ingredient in many pizzas today. At first, however, most Europeans thought eating tomatoes would make them sick. So, for about 200 years, few people ate them. Slowly, people learned that tomatoes were safe to eat, as well as tasty. In the early 19th century, cooks in Naples, Italy, started the tradition of putting tomatoes on baking dough. The flat bread soon became a favorite food for poor people all over Naples. In 1830, a cook in Naples took another big step in the history of pizza. He opened the world's first pizza restaurant. A world food. Today, about 5 billion pizzas are made every year around the world. In the U.S. alone, people eat about 350 slices every second. People may not know it, but every piece is a slice of history.
The hottest chilies. You may have experienced the feeling. Your mouth feels like it's on fire, and the heat causes your eyes to water. You've just eaten one of nature's hottest foods, the chili pepper. Chili peppers, also called chilies, are found in dishes around the world. They are in dishes like Indian curries, Thai tom yum soup, and Mexican enchiladas. Chilies come from the capsicum plant. They are hot because they contain something called capsaicin. Capsaicin is very good for your health. It helps you breathe better, and it may even help keep you fit. Capsaicin makes you feel less hungry. It also makes your body burn more calories. We can measure the heat of chilies in units called Scoville heat units, SHU. The world's hottest chili is the Carolina Reaper. It sometimes measures up to 2 million SHU. Eating a hot chili can be painful, but some people really like to eat them. Recently, Anandita Datta Tamali, a woman from Assam, India, became famous for eating chilies. She ate 51 hot peppers in just 2 minutes. The peppers she ate were Naga Jolokia, ghost peppers. They grow in Assam and are the 3rd hottest chilies in the world. I found eating chilies was a great way to stay healthy, says Tamuli. She began eating chilies when she was a child. She eats chilies when she is sick, too. Every time I have a cold or flu, I just munch on some chilies and I feel better. To be honest, I barely notice them now.
Training grizzlies. Russell Chadwick remembers the summer he turned 16. It was the summer he wrestled with grizzly bears. It all started when Russell worked as an animal trainer at Wasatch Rocky Mountain Wildlife. Wasatch Wildlife is an animal training center in Utah, in the U.S. At the center, Doug and Lynn Seuss train animals to be actors. Doug and Lynn asked Russell to help take care of two 4-month-old grizzly bear cubs named Little Bart and Honey Bump. That's more difficult than it sounds. Baby bears are big. Russell's job was to play with the bears. This teaches them to be comfortable with humans. Playing with the bears was fun, but Russell had to remember that bears are wild animals. One time, Honey Bump took a bite out of my back, and I had to wrestle her to the ground. But it also showed me how smart she is. She knew she had done something wrong and apologized by putting her head in my lap. Russell found that bears can understand more than just sit and stay. For example, when Russell said peekaboo to one baby bear, he covered his eyes with his paws, just like a human child. Russell didn't get much money for doing this job, but he enjoyed the experience. He also learned a lot from it. When you've wrestled with a grizzly bear, things like work and exams don't seem so difficult anymore.
Getting the Shot. An interview with Joel Sartori. Joel Sartori is a writer, teacher, and photographer. His words and images show his passion for photography and for the world around us.
My first job was for a newspaper. After a few years there, I met a National Geographic photographer. He liked my photos and said I should send some to the magazine. So I did. That led to a 1-day job, and that led to a 9-day job, and so on. To get into National Geographic, you have to give them something they don't have. It's not enough just to be a great photographer. You also have to, for example, be a scientist, or be able to dive under sea ice, or spend several days in a tree. It's now more difficult to work for magazines. Technology now makes it easy to take good pictures, which means there are more photos and photographers. Also, the web is full of photos from all around the world that are free or cost very little. These photos are often good enough to be put in books and magazines that once paid for photographers and their photos. Advice? Well, work hard. Be passionate about every project you work on. Take lots of pictures in different situations. Look at others' photos thoughtfully and learn from them. And be curious about life. There's something to photograph everywhere. But be a photographer for the right reasons. If you do it for the money, you probably won't really be happy. Do you want to make the world a better place? Or make people see things in a different way? If so, you'll enjoy the work much more. I've found the Titanic. As a boy, Robert Ballard liked to read about shipwrecks. He read a lot about the Titanic. My lifelong dream was to find this great ship, he says. On August 31st, 1985, Ballard's dream came true. He found the wreck of the Titanic. The ship was in two main parts, lying 4 kilometers, 2.4 miles, under the sea. Using video cameras and an undersea robot, Ballard looked around the ship. He found many items that told the sad story of the Titanic's end. For example, he found a child's shoes, a reminder of the many deaths that happened that night in 1912. In 1986, Ballard visited the Titanic again. This time, he reached the ship in a small submarine. A deep-sea robot, a swimming eyeball, took photos inside the ship. When other people saw the photos, they wanted to visit the ship too. When Ballard returned in 2004, he found the Titanic in very bad condition. Other explorers had taken away about 6,000 items, like clothes, dishes, and shoes. Some even took pieces of the ship. They think these things should be moved to a safer place, but Ballard doesn't agree. Ballard believes that taking things from the Titanic is like robbing a grave. Instead, he wants to put lights and cameras on and around the shipwreck. This way, people can see the great shipwreck and remember what happened to it. As long as she needs protection, says Ballard, the Titanic will always be part of my life.
Treasure ship. On a beach along the Skeleton Coast, the sand is filled with diamonds. But in April 2008, workers found something very different, a piece of lost history, a shipwreck and its treasure. The story began when a worker from the nearby diamond mines found a piece of metal on the beach. It was a piece of copper. Soon, they found more copper and many gold coins. The workers then found that these came from the remains of a large ship. The shipwreck was the real treasure. Archaeologists studied the shipwreck. They thought the ship probably came from Portugal about 500 years before. However, it was difficult to find information about it. In 1775, many maps and books about the ships of the time were lost in a fire in Lisbon. That left a big hole in our history, says Portuguese archaeologist Alexandra Monteiro. Finally, Monteiro found out that a group of ships left Lisbon for India in 1533. One of them, the Bom Jesus, carried 300 people and a large amount of treasure. The Portuguese sailors planned to use the treasure to buy expensive Indian spices. Archaeologists now believe the wreck might be the Bom Jesus. This is because many of the gold coins found were Spanish. Monteiro found an old letter in the Spanish Royal Archives. The letter said that Spain gave Portugal money for the trip. 2,000 Spanish coins were put on the Bom Jesus. This could explain why so many Spanish coins were found in a Portuguese shipwreck. So what happened to the ship? The Bom Jesus probably got lost in a storm. Then it smashed into rocks near the coast and sank. There were few human bones found, so the sailors were probably able to get off the ship. But even if they swam onto the beach, they would have found themselves in a strange, distant land. They had no way to get home. They might as well have been on Mars. To this day, no one knows what happened to them.